Harbingers of catastrophic events. Nature is pragmatic and optimal. And so the question arises, does nature have an institution of harbingers of events at all? That is, does nature provide that someone, who, or something, what? Have you received any prognostic signals before natural disasters? In fact, catastrophic natural events are not catastrophic to non-living nature. They are catastrophic only for humans and animals. Living nature is the only system that can suffer and, in doing so, is only capable of protecting itself. Therefore, the reaction of a living organism, human, animal, is important. At the same time, it is actually unknown what factors really make the living organism anticipate natural catastrophes. Geophysical anomalies are unlikely to be useful as precursors of catastrophes when it comes to preservation of life. It is to be expected that there are specific signals that are intended directly for wildlife, and only man can discern what the event will be. On December 11, 1980, an earthquake that later became known as the Nazarbaye earthquake hit directly outside the northwest border of the city of Tashkent. With the goal of identifying possible predictive indicators of an upcoming seismic event, emergency services call data were analyzed for the period of 1 year prior to that earthquake. Statistical data from both posts directly adjacent to the epicenter and more distant posts were studied. As it turned out, over the 11 days before the first, and most powerful, jolt, the number of calls to began to rise, and for the 3 days before the earthquake, calls were 3.5 times higher than the annual average. The bulk of this peak occurred in the regions located closest to the epicenter. In the more distant stations, no deviations from normal call frequency were observed. Studies like this indicate a possible means of predicting earthquakes that is not limited to call statistics. Practically any reliable set of statistics could be used. For example, statistics on veterinary clinics, statistics on the number of traffic accidents, and so on. The possibilities are endless. Any well-structured database contains a unique form of informational presentiment. There are no predictive signs of an earthquake. Any prognostic signs reflect only the general state of the system. It can be assumed that the system behaves like a dynamic chaos, providing various, unpredictable stress, tension, states at each time interval. And the already accumulating tension behaves strictly according to the rules that determine at what point and in what form stress, tension, should be removed with minimal energy expenditure. In this respect, the accumulating tension behaves within the framework of the Fermat principle, movement of the light beam. When a ray of light moves from one point to another, it always chooses the path that takes the least time to pass. And if nature is not interested in what event will be reset, then we will not be able to find this out with the help of geophysical instruments. But perhaps people are able to predict exactly what the coming catastrophic event will be, relying only on their senses. Any well-structured human-made database contains a unique form of information presentiment. Patent documentation, in this case, is in a rather privileged position. Patenting technologies is an expensive endeavor, and it is precisely for that reason that it can be a sufficiently precise predictive indicator. Patent information contains less informational noise and static. In this case, we are interested in intuitive knowledge. For example, we are sure that a few years before the economic crisis, inventors should reduce the number of applications for inventions related, for example, to luxury goods and so on. But it should be noted that for some period before the onset of the economic crisis, some financial analysts warned about its possibility. But what really caught people off guard was the COVID-19 pandemic. We checked the information on how the number of patent applications for certain objects changed over the period of time before the announcement of the pandemic. First of all, we found out which branches of human activity lost profits due to the pandemic, and which industries profited from the pandemic. It must be said that we use the concepts of lost profit or gained profit only to evaluate statistics. Of course, the pandemic has become a tragedy for many people. A lot of them lost their lives and material values. But we are well aware that the results of these studies can help in predicting future disasters. The following industries have lost profits: tourism, hotels, restaurants, buying tickets, paper media. The following industries have made a profit: everything to do with disinfection, treatment, etc. Food delivery, also internet services, video games, table games, and so on. Then we use a method that anyone, even without special training, can very easily repeat and use. We have entered keywords on the service patents.google.com and we got the following result. Google Patents currently index full-text documents from the following patent offices. Also, Google Patents includes over 120 million patent publications from 100+ patent offices around the world, as well as many more technical documents and books indexed in Google Scholar and Google Books, and documents from the Prior Art Archive. The following industries have lost profits: tourism, hotels, restaurants, buying tickets, paper media. The following industries have made a profit: everything to do with disinfection, treatment, etc. Food delivery. The graphs clearly show that for some period before the pandemic, the number of patents obtained in those industries that were most affected by the pandemic decreased. And it is also clearly visible that for some period before the pandemic, the number of patents increased in those industries that benefited most from the pandemic. This is the informational presentiment, intuitive knowledge. The important question is how to identify catastrophic events. How to recognize, based on patent information databases, when and where these events may occur. One might assume that if the changes identified in patent information databases encompass patents from around the world, then the event would be planetary in scope. However, if the changes with the number of patents are related to a particular region or country, then the event would also be regional. Short description: increase in the number of patent applications and scientific publications in Turkey in the 2 years before the earthquake. February 6, 2023. It should be taken into account that patenting is a complex and long-term process. We have some insight into why information anticipation is possible. But today, the most reasonable thing is to imagine this phenomenon as a black box. That is, there are inputs and outputs, but what happens to them inside is unknown. And, of course, this question requires further detailed, in-depth research.